Welcome back to Weird Careers. I'm Eric.
And I'm Dani.
All over the world, people have jobs. And some of those jobs we don't even know exist.
There are professions that we don't know much about. And there are jobs that aren't, let's say, dinner table friendly.
Well, we're here to explore all of that on this here podcast.
We will be interviewing workers from all over the world about their strange and interesting jobs.
That's right, everything from specialized retail to sex work. Plus, everything in between and outside of said box. Oh, and if you're not already, please make sure that you are accompanied by an adult for this podcast. It can get spicy.
Throughout the course of this series, we will take a deep dive into each and every career we stumble upon.
Do you think that you have an interesting job? Maybe you do. Maybe your neighbor does. Maybe your best friend or your weed dealer. Okay, maybe not that last one. But if you do, stay tuned to the end of the show on how to get a hold of us. On today's show, we have a lovely waitress who, for privacy reasons, would like to be known as Shadow Blackmare in the show. But we're going to call you Shadow. Welcome to the show, Shadow.
Hey, what's up, guys?
We're just happy to have you here, and we're excited to talk about your job.
I am excited to reveal some things that I have about my job.
In a Reader's Digest, kind of sum it all up, what do you do for a living?
So my main job that I have is that I am a waitress in a restaurant. Basically just taking orders, answering phones, filling up things, just like the normal stuff that you would probably get in most like restaurant fashions.
Before we get into all the details and all the nitty-gritty stuff about being a waitress, tell us, did you have any schooling or training that you needed to do to get the job?
So the place that I have a job with is I didn't get any formal training before.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of like went in there completely blind.
Oh.
I do have like retail experience from when I did work in like a store. So being able to like handle customers and like doing like certain jobs, it wasn't any different than working in a restaurant. It's just for in a restaurant setting, you do have a menu that you need to memorize, as well as like any additions and any specials, anything that basically changes in the restaurant for that day for food wise is something you really need to like remember, that things change and change very quickly, and you need to memorize the whole menu. And that was a challenge. That took me like a couple months.
Okay, so how often how often do changes occur then on the menu?
So it really depends. Like there are certain like food dishes that will be added on. So that could take sometimes like every other month. There are some certain things like we will add on, some things we'll take off. But if you're talking about like certain sides, like if we're adding like vegetables or potatoes, that can change in an instant. That changes like every day.
Oh, wow. So does your restaurant sell alcohol? And if it does, do you need to get some kind of special training or anything to sell it?
Okay, so my restaurant in particular does not sell alcohol.
Okay.
We have a very, very high turn rate, so we do not need the alcohol whatsoever.
That's fair.
Fair.
But in Canada, you do need to have a liquor license to be able to sell. So there is quite a bit of a there's quite a bit of a process to go through. And so it is about like a 4 to 5 hour course you need to do, and it's like $100 and some odd, and you get like a little certificate at the end that you can use. But you have to go through like the same thing. So it's not just alcohol that you do for it. It's to sell weed as well.
Oh, you need to do that for really?
Yep.
You need your to sell cannabis.
Yeah, you need to have a smart serve to sell cannabis as well as alcohol.
That makes sense.
Because you need to be able to see the signs of intoxication, and you need to be able to know how to read a
So do smart serves ever expire?
Yes.
What?
It's like every couple years, I think.
Oh.
Mine expires in like 4 or 5 years.
Oh, does it
Does
say
yours
on
have
it?
an expiry date on it?
Let me
Because
see.
mine does not.
Does it not? Yep, mine expires in 2027 on November 25th.
Huh.
I wonder if that's a newer thing.
It must be because originally it didn't expire.
Yeah, I don't think
Originally,
I
it was
had
only
one on.
alcohol.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
true.
but I guess so. Here's the thing then. So if you've got two separate certificates, I guess it's okay. For example, I have my CanCell to
Yeah.
be able to sell cannabis, and I have my Smart Serve from when I did the training a decade ago.
Okay.
So because they are two separate certificates, would that still count?
No. That would have to be up to the government itself.
Mm-hmm. What tasks in a day do you have to do?
So it depends. If
Mhm.
I am one of the openers, I have to make sure that we are fully stocked. So there is that we have our container stocked, that we have salads made, that we have our dressings filled, that we have our cold table set up for any type of like burgers or anything, that we have like our little like takeout to go condiments are ready to go. We have our utensils stocked, bags, that the counters are completely clean. Our papers are refilled in our receipt rolls. Our computers are turned on and have updated. And then we also have delivery with our tablets. So we got to make sure that the tablets are also on. So that's only like the
Okay.
morning duties.
Mhm.
During the day, you got to make sure that everything stays filled up for ourselves as well as the rest of the waitresses. Then we also are going to make sure that the counters are also clean, that the floors are also like wiped up of like any liquids to make sure
Mhm.
that nobody is tripping. Anything is like taped down. So there's those like normal things. And on top of that, then you have to answer any phones, take any orders, greet customers that walk in,
Mhm.
serve any customers that tend to sit at that you've been assigned at a table.
Mhm.
So like normal things, and then you got like your drinks, your food, your dessert, and
Mhm.
then remembering the menus and such.
Yeah. So you guys work as a team then basically in the restaurant.
Yes.
That's good because it gets quite complicated if you don't, I presume.
Yes.
Yeah.
It does, because then you have so way before, it used to be where like every waitress was kind of like on their own. We were still a team, but we weren't like a team. I guess you can say we were like individual pieces
Yeah.
that worked together but weren't really like helping each other as that much. So when I first
Mhm.
started about like 4 or 5 years ago, it was like you took your order, you were responsible for your order. It doesn't matter what you were doing, like nobody else would help you with your order.
Right.
Nowadays it's doesn't matter who takes the order, everybody is to work on it, to make sure that it is up and ready. And we've had like a few things here or there, like glitches in the system
Mhm.
where we had to like iron out. So now we have like different I guess you can say symbols that we put onto our order chits to make sure that people know is like, hey, somebody's already grabbing things for this order, so you don't have to.
Oh, okay. That's kind
Oh,
of
that's
cool.
awesome.
Yeah.
Because like before we didn't have that, so you would end up having like one person will be on their way to go grab it, somebody
Mhm.
else comes over, sees the order, and then they will go grab it. Then the first
Mhm.
person comes back, already has the starters, and then the second person comes back and like, oh no, you already grabbed that, I didn't know. And then they have to walk all the way back, and then
Mhm.
it was just a waste of time. It was a lot of confusion also.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
now we put like little dots to symbolize that somebody is already going to go grab it, and then when we have it, we mark it off the chit so that we know that it's there.
Oh,
Nice.
nice. That definitely makes it a lot more organized.
Yes.
Systems. It's always good to
What
have a
was
system.
it? What sorry. What was it like prior to like because do you do mobile pickups or like skip dishes, whatnot at
We do that
yours?
now. Yes.
Yeah.
So we
Well,
started that in the middle of the pandemic.
mhm.
Uber was the first one to come in at I think April or June in 2020.
Mhm.
So that was the first one that we had. And then the year after that, or I believe in like the fall,
Mhm.
um, we ended up getting Skip. And
Okay.
then later on, we ended up getting DoorDash, which DoorDash
Mhm.
is not that popular in my city,
Yeah,
because we're just like a small city. So it doesn't get as many orders as like Skip or Uber. So it's not
Mhm.
that popular.
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
How much of a difference is it now that you have that prior than when you didn't?
So I was there before we had the mobile, and then I was also there when we weren't like as dependent on takeout orders. So like before you would end up getting maybe just like a couple okay, so in retrospect, before we used to have like in the afternoon at nighttime during like dinner rush, we would have about like 4 people
Mhm.
normally, and then now we have about like 5 to 6 depending on the day. So like on the weekends we'll have
Okay.
about 7, and then during the week we'll have around like 5 or 6.
Well, you were kind of touched up on that one is if other people needed help, you do it as a team now,
Yes.
as opposed to before you probably didn't really do much. Like if the dishwasher, say, needed to have the clean dishes put away and you had nothing to do, would you do that for them or
Um, not necessarily.
not necessarily?
That sounds mean, but the thing is like back of house and front of house, like we
Mhm.
do work together, but it's basically separate. So like the kitchen guys
Mhm.
and the dish people have their own duties and everything back there, and then
Yeah.
front of house, like the waitresses and everything, have like their own duties up at the front. So
Oh, okay.
there will be times where the only time I will ever go and like help the dish pit is if I personally do not have dishes for my girls. I will go back there and get them myself if they're already done.
There you go.
If I don't have anything to do, I'm not going back there to grab dishes just for the heck of it. Like they have their own stuff, they can handle that. Like if I'm not busy, then they are busy, but like they have
I
enough
mean,
people back there to be able to do it.
Yeah.
that was just the first thing that popped to mind. Doesn't have to be
Yes.
just that one, but
Yeah, no. I will help if like my girls need it. Like if it's something that will benefit us, like actually we need the dishes and such, then I will go and get them myself. But
Mhm.
if it's like a slow day, then no, there should be no reason for the dish pit to be unable to get their jobs done.
Yeah.
That sounds
That's
mean,
fair.
but that's just the way it is.
Well,
It's
I mean, they're
reality.
only focused on that
Mhm.
aspect, so it's not mean because it's what they're supposed to be doing anyway,
Exactly.
kind of thing.
Well, to build off of that, the dish pit in my work establishment, they're not just doing dishes, they're also prepping things, they're grabbing stuff for the kitchen when they need it.
That's
um
fair. So
they're
those ones kind of work together while you in the front work together.
exactly, so like so if like let's say like the dish guys, like if they don't are not on top of their things, they're helping the kitchen with what they need. So it's kind of like a back and forth. So sometimes if like the guys don't have their stuff done, it's because they're helping the kitchen at that
Mhm.
time.
What's it like in a day?
Okay, so we'll talk like about like during the week.
Mhm.
So like Monday to Thursday.
Yeah.
I'll just start with those first. So Monday is a 50-50.
Mhm.
We can either be very, very busy because it is the first day of the week and people see it as in like oh, I just went to work. I don't want to cook this day. Let's just go out. And then there are those people who are like, oh, it's first day of the week. I don't want to go out. We just had that on the weekend. So it's more like a 50-50, really.
Mhm.
In like a typical day, we'll have like our lunch rush that will last for a couple hours. It usually starts around like noonish. It can end around like 2, and then like from like 2 to about like 4ish, we end up having like downtime. So
Mhm.
in that time, you're making sure that everything is like filled. clean, and like checked up on. And then in that time, you also have lunches and breaks for all the longs. And then in the afternoon, you have our dinner rush, which again could last a couple hours. On slow days, sometimes it's not that crazy. So we end up having only like a few, maybe like about an hour's worth of like really busy, like got to crack down on things. And then you kind of just like slow down. And then it's like in order every once in a while.
Oh, okay. That's kind of a nice pace, though.
Yeah.
Just to be able to slow down just for a little while, at least. I mean, for me, it would be.
So when you're saying you're scheduled from, let's say, 10 to 6, for example. So your shift end at 6 o'clock, or when that last table that you started, how does that work? Like, does somebody take over that at 6 o'clock, or do things kind of blend together? Like, how does that work?
So if it is a really busy day, in most retrospect, you like when you leave when your last table is done, or it gets to a point where your table does not need you.
Yeah.
So in other words, like so let's say like you would end at like 4 o'clock because you would have day shifts and then you would have the longs. So for a day shift, if they end at like 4 o'clock, but they had a couple tables sit down before they were to go home, if their table is in the middle of the meal, they'll tend to end up waiting until they get to about the point where they have to give them the check.
Okay.
And then they can go. Unless the manager says, like, no, that's fine. We'll just hand it over to this person. They will. And then it's up to them. It's like, oh, well, either you can cash them out and give me whatever they leave in gratuity, or you know what, it'll be like, oh no, that waitress can completely get it transferred over to them, and then they'll get the gratuity after that, even though that they did half.
Oh, okay.
If a table just sits down, then the next set of waitresses will come up, and then the first waitress will kind of just like get their starters ready, and then they'll pass over the order to the next person, depending on who gets in their section.
Okay.
And then after that, you end up getting so it's from there. So if management says it's like, no, you're done for the day, then you'll go.
Yeah.
If they want you to stay for like maybe an extra hour because you don't feel like, especially if it's a regular, if a regular comes in and they come at the end of your shift, you can ask to stay for that one person.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll let you, sometimes they won't, but it's really up to management if they want to or not.
Okay. There you go. So to kind of bounce off of Dani there, with special occasions like Valentine's Day, Christmas, Thanksgiving, New Year's, how much do these special occasions change from a normal day?
So Valentine's Day can be busy. It's not too crazy. Like it's more like a heavy rush that comes through in the dinner time era. We could end up starting around like 3 o'clock for those, and like everybody will come in for dinner up until about 7. Sometimes they'll come up right up until like the end of the day.
Okay.
We also do tend to get a lot of takeout as well, because a lot of people, especially, no offense, but a lot of gentlemen are like, oh well, I will just get takeout instead of making a lovely meal. And then they will, been so many times where I'll like take the phone order and the guy's just like, yeah, I forgot to make dinner. I'm like, oh, no worries, we'll get right on that, and then you can just tell them that you made it. How about we do that? Okay. And he's like, oh yeah, that sounds great. And I'm like, cool.
I've never gone that far before. I'll say
Lucky
that.
You. But yeah, like it's not too bad. Like the Valentine's Day is kind of like up in the air. It's the same thing with Easter. A lot of the parents will come in with like their kids just for like dinner. Now for like Mother's Day, we are packed from the morning, from the time we open, from the time we close. We may have a break in the middle of the day between like 3 and 4 to be able to restock everything. Other than that, we are running crazily throughout the restaurant to make sure that everything is good, because we have so many patrons that will come in, because we have really good food, and people want to treat their mothers very well for Mother's Day. So we end up getting like a lot of people.
Definitely depends on what the occasion is then.
Yes, it really does depend. Like Christmas, Christmas you'll end up getting more takeout than you do dine in. Like this year we end up getting a lot of dine in, because last year we were just around like the only able to do like 10 people per restaurant because we were in the middle of lockdown again.
Right.
So we got a lot of more of the takeout, and we were just, none of us were able to stop from the moment we started to maybe about half hour before we closed, because we ended up last year we ended up staying open an extra hour, which people didn't realize. And even though that we had a bunch of pre-orders done, it's just a bunch of the walk-ins that were coming in just didn't realize we were still open for like another hour. So there was that, but it wasn't too bad. We ended up getting like we were just basically crazy from whatever to whatever that day was.
So
which was a bummer.
So tell me then, what kind of differences did you see? What changed between pre-COVID and post-COVID, and like how did your procedures and everything change during COVID? Like how did all that pan out?
So in the middle of COVID, we ended up getting like these plastic dividers. So now like people can't breathe on us. I think that's what it was.
Yes.
So there was that, and then we have like the hand sanitizers that all the other restaurants had, and then there was like basically like everything else. Other than it's just like whatever you saw in like other restaurants, you saw in ours. So yeah, there was like the dividers, the hand sanitizer, the little stickers on the floor, let's say, hey, can you stand here? Make sure you were 3 feet or 6 feet apart. Basically acting like a security guard and being like, oh, we're only allowed to have so many people in the restaurant. You need to step outside.
Wow.
Oh, why? Well, it's the rules right now.
So with that, you had to probably wear the masks. What about when the people, would they put the mask up when you're talking to them if they had to dine in, or what was the rule with that?
So we as waitresses had to wear the mask when we were at the tables. The patrons were supposed to put the mask back on when the waitress came over to the table to like take their order or anything, but they never really did.
But the reality of it, exactly.
So it was really up to like the waitresses if they wanted to have like the face shield as well. Because at like one point the government was saying that, oh, we needed to have the face shield and the mask, but that was too much. But our establishment is just like, no, you guys can choose if you want to have the face shield, but the mask was mandatory.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So on normal days, do you take parties of people like celebrating for birthdays or whatnot?
Well, we don't do any reservations. Ours is always like first come, first serve, so we can take parties. But we don't do anything like too crazy.
Okay.
We can take like a certain amount of people in, but if they end up getting over like our table size, then we end up like telling them, I was like, hey, sorry guys, but if you want to have this many people, unfortunately we have to split you up, because we don't have rooms. We just have like one large dining room and then like tables.
Oh, okay.
Or we have some tables and chairs, and then we have booths.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. What is the slowest day that you can remember having?
The slowest day would probably be a Tuesday.
Why a Tuesday?
Wait, no.
It was this random Tuesday. I remember it was raining and
so the slowest. So actually, it's really funny. It wasn't actually a Tuesday. It was every Monday last January was our slowest day. So there was the first.
Really? Okay.
It was like that first Monday right after the New Year when we had that really huge snowstorm. So, the one with like the 3 foot, like 6 foot, like falling of snow. Like when we had that was like our rest, like basically half the city like shut down for that anyway.
Yeah.
And then the Monday following after that, there was like another big like blizzard, which was the funniest thing. So we ended up closing like an hour or so early
Yeah.
because we just ended up having like nobody, and we couldn't get, or we didn't want to put the delivery company that we have not contract but an agreement with. We didn't want to put them in jeopardy too much
Yeah.
by sending out takeout orders, because that's all
Yeah.
we could do during the lockdown.
That makes sense.
So yeah, like we had like one lady basically like call in and she flipped out, be like, "Oh, I ordered like 45 minutes ago. Where's my food?" And then we're like, "Oh, we're so sorry." I'm like, it is snowing outside, so the driver's just being safe. We did tell you it's going to be around 2 hours up to
Yeah.
for delivery. And she just would kept flipping out.
Oh, Jesus.
And I guess the one who took the phone call at that time was just had enough of it, and she's just like, "Hey lady, it is snowing outside, do not yell at me, your driver is on the way, they're just being safe, like, have you looked outside?" It wasn't the smartest thing to say, but like that woman did need a reality check because it just wasn't fair.
Like seriously, like she's like, you are making an order for someone to deliver it to you because you don't want to go out in the snow and drive in it yourself.
Exactly.
Have a little patience.
Yeah. So on that day, I remember there was like, I think there was like 4 or 5 of us, and I ended up being cleaning up where we have like our drink storages and such. So like where I have our like fountain machine and our dessert refrigerator. So I ended up cleaning that very quickly because we barely used it. So there wasn't too much. So that was also when it was only like the kitchen guys in the back and everything was like in lockdown. So I ended up helping the one gentleman who was doing the dish pit by himself. So I ended up just putting like a bunch of stuff in the racks and then throwing it through the machine. And then I kept bothering him. I'm like, "Hey, where does this go?" And he's like, "Yeah, no problem." And he's like, "It goes there, it goes there, it goes there." I'm like, "Okay, cool." And we just like, I put headphones in, like my earbuds, and I just kind of like went at it. I think like I stayed an extra like hour and a half helping him. And I'm like, you know what? I really do need to go home. The snow is getting pretty bad. And I'm pretty sure my husband's wondering where I am, even though he's like texting me. "Okay, so you're closed?" I'm like, "Yes." "Where are you?" "I'm helping so and so in the dish pit." "By the way, how do you do this?" And he's like, "Well, you got to put it in this way." I'm like, "Okay, I put it in that way, but it's not working." My husband works in the dish pit at the restaurant that I work at. So we work.
Oh, okay.
Just to give some context as to why I'm asking my husband how to use the machine.
Oh,
I knew,
makes sense.
so
That
that's
makes
why
sense.
I wasn't confused.
Well, I'm
Danny's like,
glad
"Yeah, I
somebody
know
was
what's
in
going
on
on."
it. Well, on that note, we are going to take a quick break to hear from our sponsors. So don't turn that dial. We'll be right back. Are the big corporations taking your sales with fancy images that just aren't in your small business budget? Not to worry. At Cardinal Images, they take everything to heart. Cardinal Images is a small business supporting small businesses, so they get it. Check out cardinalimages.ca for their gallery and contact info. Also, if you're a listener of this podcast, you will receive not only your demo images, but your first shoot absolutely free. Just email Eric at cardinalimages.ca with the subject line podcast promo to receive your free shoot today. Cardinal Images, affordable pricing, professional images, and personable photography.
Hi, my name is Shadow, and you're listening to Weird Careers.
And welcome back to Weird Careers. We have Shadow with us. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Is there something that you wish you didn't have to deal with being a waitress?
Honestly,
Idiot
honestly,
customers. The which ones? What kind of customers?
The idiot customers.
Oh my god!
Like, just not like all of my customers are fine, but there are like those really dumb ones. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely understand.
Like the whole like, "Oh, can I get a cheeseburger without the cheese? So you want a plain burger?"
No.
Or the
Right?
whole, what comes on a bacon
Yeah.
burger? Bacon.
Exactly, right?
Like it's just like the general questions. Like if these people actually ended up like reading the menu, then you would answer like 90% of the questions before they even come out of your
Exactly.
mouth.
Yeah.
Exactly, right?
Like you can answer your own questions. Like what's on
Oh
a
my-
bacon burger? Read the menu.
Yeah.
Bacon.
exactly. That whole common sense thing, not so common.
Yeah, I I did the whole retail thing, so it's like
Yep.
I've had people ask me stupid questions like that before, like, "Oh, can you help me find the shampoo?" It's beside the shampoo is in the first aisle. You just walked past me. Or it's the whole like you're in the like cough and cold aisle, like fixing up things. It's like, "Can you help me find the cough syrup?" Yeah, it's right there by your face if you turn to the
Open
right,
your eyes there,
like
lady.
90 degrees.
The
So
sarcasm is strong with this one.
I love when people say, "Can I pay debit?" And it's like, I don't know. Can you? Can you? I don't know. You ask. You tell me.
Right.
For the ones that's just like, oh, you just have to answer the question at the beginning of the tap of the on screen, and then you tap at the top, and then they proceed to tap at the top, and then you're just looking at them like you need to answer the question. What question?
Mhm.
The one on screen.
Follow the prompts on the pin pad.
Exactly. I'm like, can you
It's
follow
there
the
for a
prompts,
reason.
please?
It's called reading.
Yeah.
Open your eyes and see the world around you.
Pretty much.
Yep.
The other one that really annoys me, like up here in Canada, we are paid properly up here. Like we get our minimum wage. If you work in an establishment that sells alcohol, they can actually dock you about $1 because they have to make some money. So they don't pay you like the full minimum wage. You get your alcohol minimum wage.
Okay.
So
That's
up here
changed.
we are not dependent on gratuities. When we get gratuities, it is a very appreciated gratuity. We appreciate every penny that a customer gives us. I've had customers
Okay.
give me like 50 cents. They're like, "I'm so sorry, that's all I can afford." I'm like, you know what? I'm like, don't worry about it. I'm like, you gave me something. I like anything is appreciated. And I thank you from the
Okay.
bottom of my heart when you do that. The ones that annoy me is when I'm doing takeout, they look at the tablet menu and I'm like, oh, you just need to like answer the prompt at the top, or would you like to leave a tip for the girls today? And they look at me with such disgust to be like, I'm not tipping you. I'm getting takeout. I'm taking this home. And I have to stand there and give them a smile and be like, oh, that's no problem. Just press the cancel on there and you can keep going and tap at the top. When I really want to say, like, oh, so me taking your order, placing your order, giving it to the kitchen, making sure that it's all correct, writing down that it's your bag and not somebody else's, calling out your name, making sure that it is you, and having all your stuff in there, as well as all your damn condiments and your utensils. That's not enough for me to get $1 from you because you're taking it home and I didn't serve you at a table.
Correct.
Exactly. Like that. Like, do you hear the words coming out of your
Rude.
mouth?
Rude.
People are
Like,
just
we
very. I come from when I used to be a server at a Swiss Chalet many years ago, and
Yeah.
this was a time where there was a server minimum wage and then a minimum wage, so
Yeah.
you actually did rely on tips.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if you were a waitress at that point in time,
No, I was
where you
not.
would remember that, but it was at the time you relied on those tips. I'm instead of making if whatever I think the minimum wage was $8 an hour. I was making six something plus tips.
Yeah, I think from what I remember when I was like like 2012 or something, or 2018, or no.
So it's two very different years.
Yeah.
I think it was like I'm trying to remember when I graduated high school because that's when I got my first job. Before I switched over to retail, I did actually want to get a job as a waitress in like a different place. But I did see like the minimum wage was like 420 or like 640, and I'm like,
Yeah.
why? the minimum wage is like $8.25. Why are we being paid so little? And I did not realize it's because when you go and work at a restaurant that served alcohol, they did not need to pay you uh like the regular minimum wage that everybody
Exactly.
got. So that did not come into effect until like a good few years later.
Oh.
So
I didn't know that.
I was not a waitress at that time. From what I saw, I didn't want to be. But I did not realize that actually having that experience and actually getting the tips at that time is like those gratuities. Like I was still living at home, so it's not like I really needed the crazy amount of money.
Yeah.
But like
It's still nice
it
to
was just
have.
something I just did not think of getting. So I ended up going into like retail instead,
Yeah.
which wasn't any better.
Yeah.
I've done 17 years of retail. I understand.
I did like 12 or 13. I was even
You
a
got
manager
out.
at like one point and I hated every second of it.
Oh, I understand.
Is there any customers that go above and beyond to help make your job easier? Because I know, like, personally, I'll try to stack the plates and stuff together.
The funny thing is like I do that also, but I grew up like that in my own household because it's like
Yeah.
it's just easier to take the dishes and such.
Mhm.
It in certain places it's fine, but then you have like the customers who end up putting like plates on top of plates that still have the forks and stuff underneath it, so they're not taking the utensils out and then
Yeah.
placing all of them at the top, so you end up having like this weird stack. It's not
Yeah.
everybody, and some people tend to leave their plates, but a lot of people are like really good with like stacking their plates and like putting their utensils like all on along the top, so it's easier for us to like grab and like run away with and putting them into the bins. um for me, it is the customers that tend to joke around with me. Like those are the
Yeah.
ones that make my day. So I have like this one gentleman who will come in like a couple times a week to have breakfast, and I know him pretty well. We're on like first name basis.
Mhm.
And it's just the funniest thing because I think at like one point he told me a story about how he was trying to clean out a gutter with a knife and the police got called on him.
Oh,
Oh.
man.
So now it's just like this joke will come around like, so got called police on you anytime soon? He's like, nope, been a good boy today. I'm like, okay, well, we'll see about that.
That's funny. I love that.
So, and then there are just like some customers like, um, they don't come around as much anymore because like their jobs have taken them elsewhere because of the pandemic. But there was like 3-4 people that they would just walk in and I would know their orders like off by heart. Like
Yeah.
one guy will come in, I'm like, oh, eggs and bacon scrambled, or no, medium, over medium, bacon, home fries, rye toast, and a bottle of orange juice. That was his full order, and that's what he had every breakfast
That sounds
around
delicious. I want breakfast food now.
I know breakfast food is the best. But yeah, like there's some people that will come in and be like, hey, so and so, how's it going? Like, are we getting your usual today? There's a couple of them that are getting to that point, and I'll be like, and he's like, oh, well, I guess I've been here too much because now you know my name. I'm like, yeah, we're getting there, no worries. And like maybe about 3 more sessions we'll be able to have it where I can ask if you're getting your regular today.
Nice.
So,
So how bad can some of the customers get, like on the opposite side of things?
oh my goodness, that's a trip. So
Oh,
there are, yeah, I'm pretty sure you can. So customers can get really nasty, and they can get really nasty for like the dumbest of reasons. You forget something in their bag and they're coming back screaming at you. You forget to give them the, like, God forbid, a pack of ketchup, and then they're like, oh my God, I want my entire food comped. There are,
Sorry, that just
It-
sounds ridiculous.
you'd be surprised.
Oh my
Like,
God.
oh, well, my entire order was wrong because I didn't get my ketchup. I want my food discounted or my food comped because I am unhappy.
Do you have ketchup at home, bitch?
Apparently not.
Like, come on, everybody's got ketchup in the fridge.
Right.
But
Everybody.
like we've went through like there is the good, there is the bad, and those ones, like
Mhm.
the extreme cases are far in between, thankfully. um but like the very extreme cases, like the one I can tell you right now is one lady, like in November, she was arguing with my manager because she was saying that us not selling her a kids meal by itself, which is for 12 and under, and this lady was well in her 40 and 50s, was saying that we were being discriminatory.
Ha!
And we're like, no, ma'am, we're not. It's for 12 and under. Well, I'm buying it for my granddaughter. Well, they're not here. So it is, we can't sell it to you. And in our place, it's you purchase a child menu, you purchase an adult as well, especially for takeout, because we can't guarantee that you're buying this kids meal for yourself, which is like half
Yeah.
the price or quarter of the price of what a normal like meal would be. So
Yeah.
it's just to save face, because at the beginning of the pandemic we had it where office people would be coming in and we'd be buying kids meals, and
Mm.
it's because they didn't want to pay the full amount. So like this lady was like full on arguing while we had like a full line of people, and they're staring at her like, are you completely serious right now? And it took everything in me to just stand there and not defend my manager, because I could see she was getting frustrated and this woman would not let up. And the worst part is that it was one of my new employees that was the one that was taking the order, and I was there helping, and it was just like they didn't know how to handle it. So I had gotten my shift leader, and then my shift leader called my manager, and then she came down, and I just had to send my cashier away because I wasn't going to let her be belittled.
Mhm.
I can handle it because I've done it for 12 plus years with retail customers, and I've done it for a few years doing already in restaurants. So for me, it wasn't any different.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you still
I,
shouldn't have to go through that.
No.
well, no,
Absolutely.
I shouldn't have to, but for somebody who's just starting out in the restaurant business, and I understand if it's not their first job or is their first job,
Yeah.
I've been there longer. I have the seniority, I have the backbone. So I'd rather
Yeah.
have that customer yell at me
That's true.
than have them yell at one of my newer employees. Like I'm there to protect them, and I don't
Yeah.
care if I'm not management or not. I will take the blunt of it.
Yep.
And if it gets too out of hand, that's when I will get my manager involved. But I will not turn my back on uh the new people that start, or even like the younger ones.
Yeah.
I won't let them be belittled by customers. I will be right there, and I will take that attention away from them and put it on
Yeah.
myself so that they don't have to handle
Yeah.
that. Cause I'm just too, like, when I hear customers get upset with the younger ones or with like the new
Mhm.
people, my manager persona comes out, because I was one for almost like 10 years. So that's what
Mhm.
I just basically go in like management mode, and I'll walk
Yeah.
up and like, hey, what's going on? Can you explain this to me?
Mhm.
And then I'm like, I'm not gonna let you fucking yell at my people. Like
No,
you can
of
yell
course
at me
not.
all you want, but I'm just gonna stand here because I know how to take it and I know how to
Mhm.
kill you with kindness,
Right.
basically.
Exactly. So you've decided to go with the alien today for your own reasons. No judgment. All good. But where did the name come from? Where did the alias come from?
So my alias actually came from way back when. If anybody in the stream remembers, I might be dating myself, Gaia Online.
Ah, yes.
Yes. So um even actually before that, there was Neopets. Yes.
Neopets.
So um before like I even came to Shadow Blackmare, I had like the weirdest name. It was actually really funny
Mhm.
because my alias before used to be Firefox,
That.
which is hilarious. Um So I had switched over to Gaia Online, and I met a group of people that we used to like role play stories online through the boards and everything. I was also really into Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Vampire High, and what was the other one? Angel.
Yeah.
So there was like all those like dark vampire things, and so we were creating our own. I guess it was like at that time I believe it was a Yu-Gi-Oh role play, and so I had
Yeah.
my original character actually, and I was trying to find a name and backstory to her. So I always was drawn to Shadow. It was just something that it just always came to me, no matter like what nickname or whatever that I always wanted to do. So that was there, but I needed to find a last name for her for this role play, and I just could not figure out um what it was. So I had actually started just going by Shadow Viper Veil for the longest time.
Okay.
And that was like my first alias for online whatever. And that was what I signed up for a good few amount of things for. Now, when I was doing this one story, we could go online and we could find pictures and things. So my OC was the daughter of Anubis, um, in Yu-Gi-Oh. So I had was just going to find, I guess you can say, like pictures online. I think this was when Deviant Art was still kind of like around. So I was going through
Yeah.
there, and on Google there was a picture that they had that I had found, and it was a picture of a female, uh, kind of like Anubis figure, and in the bottom corner, it had Blackmare. So it wasn't the person's like name or anything. Like I had actually checked. So it wasn't like I was taking somebody else's
Yeah.
name or anything, but I'm like, oh, Blackmare, that's pretty cool. And when I clicked the image and you can go and check out their other stuff, they had it actually as Anubis Blackmare on
Okay.
another picture. And I'm like, oh. So when I was that young, I'm like, oh, that would be a really cool last name. So that's what I put my name as, like Shadow Blackmare. And it stuck with me ever since. So
Nice.
Love it.
I built off of that character. I took that name out of that story, and I built an entire like backstory. I actually have a crest of arms that I made that is actually tattooed on my body.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
And it's really cool one, because when people ask me about it, I'm like, oh, it's actually my OC character's crest of arms. So it went from being Anubis's daughter to like this vampire uh character that is like half vampire, half demon, that
Yeah.
rules this entire like shadow realm and things, and like has subjects, and like is a sub ruler to like all these other realms with things. And then so it just built off so far that has just become its own thing.
Nice.
And no
Nice.
matter how many times I tried to think of like different names or like different gaming names, or like it always went back to Shadow Blackmare, and it was just a name that sticks with me and is a part of me now, because God knows I have that tattooed on me. But it's something that came to me, and it's not something that went away, and it just has so much history, and I've developed such a relationship with this name that it's just basically what I go with. So no matter where I am online, that's what it is.
Yeah. I love it. Nice. I do want to say thank you so much, Shadow, for popping onto the show today, for telling us about what you do for a living, all that kind of like the ins and outs of one of the more mundane jobs in the world, and people just don't know a lot about it. So thank you so much for coming in and sharing that with us today.
No problem. It was my pleasure.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
Oh, the day old question. I'll be honest, I wanted to be a gamer influencer when I grew up. When I was so like I've seen like the people like PewDiePie, Markiplier, Jacksepticeye, like all those guys. Like I would have given anything if I would have started when they started. I probably would have been maybe about a quarter of what they are. But
right.
I would have loved to have been able to have and do this as a career if I would have started when they started way back in the early 2000s. If I had the means, 100% I would have been a streamer and influencer like right from the get-go. As much as like I was like a shy little person, I loved games and
What? You? No.
I know, right? I still am. I have such social anxieties. Like I can't go out of my house where I'm like, oh, I have to interact with people. It's too people-y out here. I want to go back inside. But God knows behind the computer screen, I'm like, hey guys, what's up? Let's do this. And have like all the energy of the world where I don't know where it comes from. But I guess it's just like I can't actually see these people. So it's fine. I can do it. But yeah, if I would have been able to do it at the same time as those guys, I probably would have been a gamer, like a gaming influencer, a streamer, a content creator, doing all this fun stuff. Probably not so much like what some people are doing. Like I would mostly just be like playing the like the new games and everything. Like a lot of that I've noticed has really fallen off the rails. Like it used to be in the early 2000s when like a new popular game would be coming out. Let's do when South Park came out. That was the biggest thing for the longest time. So it's like when that came out, everybody, all the streamers were playing it. And then when the next game came out, that would be like the next one. So let's say it was like Resident Evil 4. But nowadays it's like well, I haven't been on YouTube as much because it's gotten, I don't know what the word is for it, but YouTube's gotten kind of more money hungry than they have been, and it's gotten really boring to watch. So a lot of things have I actually switched over to more Twitch, and I've gotten onto the TikTok and such.
It's getting very
Love Twitch.
more strict too.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
Twitch is very, what I really like about Twitch is that they're very user oriented. They're very for the community and for the user.
Yeah.
Or like you said, YouTube is YouTube is Google. Google is very money hungry.
Yes. Yeah, it was really sad when Google and Dilly actually buying up YouTube. It was a very sad day. Because I actually watched the differences between one of like the few of my stream or the few of the guys that I would watch, and then all of a sudden it just kind of like changed. Like they got more different with their content. I got a lot of more strict with their content because they couldn't be as free-minded as they did. So then that's when they started switching over to like different communities. Like one content creator, I'm not going to mention him because he's got some bad history now, so I really don't want to give him any exposure or even like get people to like look him up. But anyways, like he used to be really big on YouTube and he switched over to Twitch because they were better for him, and he was able to do more things on there, even though that it was more just for streaming, because he used to just stream on certain nights, and then it just went like he just completely left YouTube. Like I think his like last one is in like in 2019.
Oh wow.
2018 is the last time he posted on YouTube, and he just doesn't go back. He just only posts on Twitch. So
for sure.
But yeah, like it if that probably would have been something like I probably would have like ended up going from like Twitch and YouTube and doing all that. Like I it's just I would have been like, oh, playing games for the rest of my life. Hell yeah.
Right?
Right. Yeah.
Or like even like collaborating with like a studio after a while if I would have gotten big enough and actually creating my own game would have been really cool.
Ooh,
That
that
would
would
be
have been
cool.
really cool.
Mm-hmm. Like I think
Well,
PewDiePie
sorry.
ended up making a game for his for the iPhone. And then also Smosh did the same thing. Like they ended up making a game, which I don't think you can find it on iOS or Apple store anymore.
Oh, there you go.
But yeah, I think that would have been really cool.
Nice. Well, again, just want to say thank you so much for popping in today. It's been an absolute pleasure getting to know you and having you in studio. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been Shadow Blackmare here on Weird Careers. Thank you so much, Shadow, for popping in today.
Always a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me on the show today.
Do you have a cool or interesting job? You never know. Believe it or not, your 9 to 5 may be more interesting than you think.
So don't be shy and shoot us an email at weirdcareerspodcast@gmail.com. Also, if you liked us, please give us a 5-star review on wherever you're listening to us. It really helps us to get seen.
Thanks for tuning in and exploring with us. We hope you will join us next time.
And until then, I'm Eric.
And I'm Dani.
Cheers.
Cheers.